Yes, you're starting now.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining the session, Green Recovery in Asia Pacific, the role and priorities of financial institutions. My name is Yuki Yasui, and I'm the Asia Pacific Coordination Manager of UNEP Finance Initiative. I have the honor of moderating this session, and I'm very happy to have you join this session. So if you have any questions to the speakers or want to raise any comments, please do use the chat function. And now I want to introduce you to our wonderful speakers. So let me just share my screen, and I will do full screen now. So you've heard already from Mr. Wu in part 1 of the session, Mr. Sang-Hyung Wu of KB Financial Group. In addition, we have Ms. Huang from the Bank of Zhejiang and Ms. Nomindari Enkunta from the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association. Just to give you a quick run through of how this session will be structured. So I will do a quick setting of the scene, followed by the opening statements from Ms. Huang and Ms. Nomindari, and then we will go into Q&A. So green recovery strategies are now, we're seeing many countries establish green recovery fiscal policies and plans, and there are many possible strategies. Mr. Wu was sharing the Korean Green New Deal, which was around, I think the main strategy there was the strengthening of international position of the Korean economy into a low carbon global economy. There are other countries that are also doing the same, and there are some financial centers who are also trying to use the green recovery fiscal stimulus to strengthen their positioning as a green financial center as well. In other countries, I think there are, and in combination with these kind of long-term strategies, there are short-term gains to be made in the green recovery as well. And some of them are around the fiscal and resource savings that can be met through some of the green upgrades. For example, energy efficiency is well established. A lot of the technologies are well established. So you can get quick wins through savings, financial savings and resource efficiency savings. Also, green job creation is another quick win for some of the sectors and in some countries. And of course, a lot of the green recovery has an emphasis or an angle on addressing inequality, both nationally and sometimes internationally as well. And they will be prioritizing the vulnerable groups like SMEs, women, and the poor. Also, a lot of the governments are thinking that they cannot withstand another disaster. So building resilience on some of the more likely disaster sexscenarios is a priority as well. So, for example, natural disasters that are now more frequent, for example, typhoons and tornadoes, and typhoons and droughts, they need to also be working on building the resilience around that as well. And then finally, in terms of finance, some of the green recovery national strategies are trying to attract international capital and mobilizing domestic financial institutions to do the job as well, to come in to work with the government. And then for emerging markets and developing countries, a green recovery strategy could actually help to strengthen their access to international public funds like ODAs, World Bank and Climate Fund, bilateral financial institutions as well. Finally, just for what the financial institutions green recovery could look like. As said, similar to the government, it is about supporting green sectors, but also supporting brown economy sectors into a green upgrade, a green transition. Also, financial inclusion and SME financing would be providing a lot of positive impact to the community. And finally, something to think about in your own operations, whether a climate-aligned back-to-work strategy could be built around less travel and more use of these kind of virtual meetings and connecting with customers and stakeholders through more of these virtual connections rather than traveling or going to work. So with this, I'm going to stop the sharing and hand over the floor to the opening remarks by Ms. Huang to talk about the China's policies around the green recovery and also the work that the bank is doing around this area as well. Thank you, Ms. Huang.
Okay, thank you, Yuki. Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank UNEP FI for organizing the roundtable. My name is Huang Jing. I work at the Green Finance Department of Bank of Zhejiang. It's my great pleasure to be here. First of all, please allow me to briefly introduce Bank of Zhejiang. We are a city market from China, listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in 2018. Bank of Zhejiang is in Zhejiang City, Jiangxi Province, where there is a World Cultural Heritage Landscape, Mount Lu, China's longest river, Yangtze River, and China's largest freshwater lake, Poyang Lake. As a financial institution group here, we have a strong social responsibility and insisted on being a responsible bank for 20 years. In April this year, Bank of Zhejiang formally signed the United Nations Principles for Responsible Banking, becoming the first 30 commercial bank in China to sign the principle. Now, on China's Green Recovery Plan, I will mainly introduce three aspects. First, China's Green Recovery Plan. Second, the green recovery measures of financial regulators. Third, the measures of financial institutions, taking Bank of Zhejiang as an example. Now, first, let's focus on China's Green Recovery Plan. At the general debate of the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Chinese President Xi Jinping stated that China will scale up its intended nationally determined contributions by adopting more vigorous policies and measures. We aim to have carbon dioxide emissions peak before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. This is the first time that China proposed a carbon neutrality target, demonstrating China's responsibility and great determination. Is everything okay?
Yes, everything is fine.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you.
The COVID-19 has caused a serious impact on China's economic and social development. China is working hard to turn crises into opportunities, and we are trying our best to stabilizing employment, stabilizing finance, stabilizing foreign trade, stabilizing foreign investment, stabilizing expectations. and implementing, while at the same time working to ensure the employment of residents, ensure basic people's livelihood, ensure market players, ensure the food security, ensure the stability of the supply chain, of the industrial chain, and ensure basic operation of society. On the other hand, China continues promoting the construction of new infrastructure such as 5G, big data, internet, and AI. New type urbanization construction, the development of new medicine, smart cities, smart transportations, new energy and environmental protection, circular economy, and other no carbon and zero carbon industries, while cultivating new drivers of economic growth, reducing greenhouse gas and pollutant emissions. Now, second, let's move to the green recovery measures of financial regulators. China will actively carry out the peaking of carbon dioxide emissions, promote the transformation and upgrading of economic structure, energy structure, and industrial structure, establish a green and no carbon circular development economic system, accelerate the construction of a national carbon emission trading market, promote green and no carbon technology innovation, and promote related institutional reforms and policy innovations will effectively improve climate governance capabilities. At the same time, we will promote synergies in response to climate change, pollution control, and ecosystem protection and restoration, and effectively improve the intercept and the level of climate change. Since the beginning of this year, financial regulators have taken measures to support the green recovery. For example, to support small and medium-sized enterprises hit by COVID-19, the PBOC issued 300 billion yuan of special re-lending and increased the re-lending and re-discount amount by 500 billion yuan in March, and expanded the amount to 1 trillion yuan in July. Taking advantage of refinancing, PBOC provided 1.8 trillion yuan in total to support real economy in epidemic prevention and control work, production recovery, and vulnerable small and medium-sized enterprises. China's establishment of a green financial system has shown great potential in supporting green recovery. Let's look at a set of data. As of the first half of this year, China's green credit balance has exceeded 11 trillion yuan. Total green bond issues from China has reached 1.2 trillion yuan. Green credit and green bond are in line with green recovery. Thirdly, the third aspect is the response measures taken by financial institutions, taking Bank of Zhejiang as an example. Since the beginning of this year, we have launched several special products to fully support enterprises in production recovery. Firstly, we launched the Green Beer product. As an effective supplement to green credit and green bonds, green beers can better meet the financial payment and short-term financing needs of enterprises. Up to now, Bank of Zhejiang has offered 287 million yuan of green beers and 516 million yuan of discount effectively supporting the development of green industries such as green buildings, new energy vehicles, and resource recycling. The second product is the financing assistance loan, responding to the financial needs of medical care, material supply, and basic life support complaints during COVID-19. Regarding the emergency of green recovery, Bank of Zhejiang has opened green finance channels to grant credit. Up to now, Bank of Zhejiang has issued 3.6 billion yuan of financing assistance loans to more than 200 companies. And business assistance loan is our third product. The product aims to support the production recovery of small and micro enterprises in the manufacturing industry, trade industry, catering industry, and business service industry that have been greatly affected by the epidemic. Currently, more than 100 enterprises have been granted loans with a total of 227 million yuan to resume work and production. In addition, since the outbreak of the epidemic, Bank of Zhejiang has taken various measures to reduce corporate costs, including reducing exempting corporate transfer fees and lowering loan interest rates. In the first half of this year, a total of 150 million yuan of discounts have been achieved. So, from aspects, we can see China puts green recovery at the core of epidemic recovery and future economic development. So that's the end of my sharing. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Huang. So it's great to hear that in China, the green recovery is actually accelerating the speed of sustainable finance, and that is in turn helping the economy, which is a good cycle to see. Thank you. We will now move on to Ms. Nomindari Enkota of the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association. And after that, we will move into the Q&A session. Ms. Nomindari?
Yes, thank you, Yuki. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, that's perfect. So for my first intervention, I actually prepared a presentation. So I'll try to share it from my computer. And if it doesn't work, I would need your assistance. But let me know if you can see the presentation.
Yes, perfect.
You see it? Okay, that's perfect. So again, thank you very much by inviting the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association to this year's UNEP FI Regional Roundtable. We are very excited to be part of this event and have the opportunity to share the sustainable finance journey in Mongolia. And for my presentation today, I'm going to focus a bit more on the banking sector's collective efforts related to unlocking more green financing, especially in the time of COVID, and very importantly, also relevant to the need for more greener recovery. And on an overall note, I'm very happy to say that we do see a very solid continuation and very strong uptake of green finance policy discussions and also market practices. And just recently, I was speaking to some colleagues in the financial sector, and they're saying that there has been a joke that in Mongolia this year, they're only, not in Mongolia, but they're seeing that only 2 companies this year are still on a very strong growth trajectory. One is Zoom, and the other one is the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association. And I believe that's a very also positive signal that our main partners, including the financial policymakers, really do believe in the importance of pushing forward the green finance agenda together with the more broader overall recovery efforts and reform, financial sector reform efforts that are currently undertaken here in the country. So Before I go into the details of the various green finance activities that we are implementing here on the ground, I wanted to show you just a few slides that also highlights the overview of the key milestones that we have hit throughout our sustainable finance journey so far. So sustainable finance in development in Mongolia is very much rooted in a market-based initiative that we started back in 2013 under the Mongolian Bankers Association. And during the first years of this initiative, we focused mostly on ESG integration and the risk management side of sustainable.
Nomindari, you are on mute.
Sorry?
No, we can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay. And different relationships with the non-banking financial sector, with the non-financial sector, including the Ministry of Environment and different industries. And for us during this phase, the key milestones that we have achieved is the development of the Mongolian sustainable finance principles. And this is the key overarching framework that until today guides the implementation of sustainable finance in the banking sector. And one aspect that we are very proud about this framework is the fact that all the banks in 2015 have adopted the principles, despite the fact that there was no regulatory push or mandatory requirement coming from the central bank. So following the adoption of the sustainable finance principles in 2015, all of our banks have introduced environmental social management systems. They've appointed dedicated sustainable finance departments. We've done a lot of training, thousands of trainings. And then since 2015, all banks are conducting collectively environmental social due diligence on all types of business loans with the same threshold of 25,000 US dollar. And very short, and personally, and also we believe that sustainable finance development in Mongolia is going in a very positive direction. And on this slide here, you can see the results of an annual survey that's conducted by IFC among the 40 developing country members of the Sustainable Banking Network. And then you can see here that Mongolia is considered as one of the countries that have reached a relatively advancing stage when it comes to sustainable finance. And in addition to this IFC-supported assessment on the more country level, on the more FI and bank level, we also do our own sustainable finance performance assessments on our member banks. And this is the result of the assessment that we just recently concluded last month. And you can see that around like 70%, the majority of the banking sector have received the grading of B and above, which means that they have reached a relatively mature stage and in different layers of sustainable finance, which includes the risk management side, the opportunity side. We also included from this year climate-related indicators as well. And while we try to kind of identify the best practices and some of the accomplishments of our banks in this field, this assessment is also used to identify the main gaps and barriers that we are facing in the sector collectively. So here, you can see also in the second graph that we are still certain areas where we still need to do a lot of work, and the main barriers that we're facing are more focused on the implementation side. So in other words, we have the policies, the strategies, the structure in place, but many of the banks, they have some difficulty when it comes to actual implementation. So one example on the risk management side is we asked whether climate risk is part of the due diligence process of the lending activity process already. They usually have a strong focus related to climate change in the strategies and policies, but it hasn't been really like effectively translated into practice in the lending environment. And then on the green finance, another also key kind of gap barrier that we realized and recognized from our assessment was that while the bank's green portfolio is steadily growing over the years, still they face capacity barriers and expertise barriers related to the assessment and the evaluation and the verification of the actual green impact of the green loans that they're issuing at the moment. So for us, these, for example, areas are some of the work that we are planning to focus on in the coming years. And in 2018, together with UNEP, we also launched our National Sustainable Finance Roadmap, which defines a comprehensive sustainable finance strategy for Mongolia. It goes beyond the banking sector, including capital markets, insurance, and also institutional investors. And following the ambition and the objective and the activities mentioned in the roadmap, also in 2018, the Bankers Association made the decision to establish the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association, which I represent here today. So it's a very similar structure to the Bankers Association, but we have the focus, the sole mandate to promote sustainable finance. At the moment, we have the membership of all the banks in the country, and starting from this year, we are also opening up to other types of financial institutions, and we'll start from the microfinance sector, insurance sector, and some investment funds as well. And very short, on the ESG risk management side, we have done a lot of work, but along the road, what we have realized was that doing less brown was not enough, and we had to mobilize much more funding for green projects if we wanted to create real impact in line with Mongolia's sustainable development and climate change ambition. And since then, we have expanded our focus of our work into green financing flows as well. And for example, we've done a lot of work with our members on pipeline creation. We also try to increase the access for our member banks to affordable green funding, both from national and international sources. And then we've done also a lot of work around green project standardization. And I can highlight some of the flagship projects now. So in the area of green finance, one of the key flagship projects that we're working on through the past 3 years is the establishment of the Mongolia Green Finance Corporation, which is called MGFC for short. And this institution is a public-private partnership-based financial institution with the sole focus to promote green finance. And on this project, we are partnering with local banks, the government of Mongolia, represented by the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Finance, and also the Green Climate Fund. And the initial capitalization of this institution is planned to be at $50 million US. And basically the idea of this institution is to provide affordable wholesale funding to local banks that could use this funding to on-lend to green projects with the focus on energy efficiency, air pollution reduction, and also green housing. And we've been working with GCF on this project in 2017. A lot of work has been done, and just recently we received the news that we passed the ITAT, the Technical Committee Assessment. So which means our project will be tabled and presented to the upcoming board meeting in November, the B27 board meeting of GCF. So if you receive positive news there, we are hoping that this institution will be up and running and providing funding to banks starting from next year. And in addition to this more national and sector level partnership with GCF, we also have like 2 commercial banks in the country that have already received accreditation from GCF. So we really believe that this represents the results of the various groundwork that was laid through the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Initiative since 2013. And another key milestone and something that we believe was really instrumental in encouraging, pushing more green financing flows was also the development of a national green taxonomy. This document was drafted by the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association together with Tsinghua University, learning from China's experience as well. It was approved by the Financial Stability Commission of Mongolia, which is represented by all the heads of our financial regulators. And similar to the EU taxonomy and the Climate Bonds Initiative taxonomy, this document defines a nationally agreed classification framework of green economic activities that are eligible for green investment. And following the approval of the green taxonomy in 2019, the central bank, starting from this year, has started collecting green loan statistics in the banking sector. And you can see the Q3 results here. Still, I mean, green lending is still a small part. It makes up less than 3% of total bank lending. But we believe this is a major step that we started the taxonomy and the green loan statistics for us to understand where we are. And based on this results, currently we are in discussion with the Central Bank of Mongolia to see whether we could introduce some green finance policy incentives to promote more green finance flows. And on green finance, another kind of area of work that I wanted to highlight is also the various green pilot projects that we are currently implementing, and these projects have a really strong focus on the sectors that were specifically hit by COVID. So, for example, we are working with GIZ and 8 commercial banks on an affordable housing pilot project that aims to test the entire supply chain of energy efficient housing finance. This project really aims to reach the bottom of the pyramid, low-income households, more vulnerable households that were affected by COVID. And to do so, GIZ is providing a 20% interest rate subsidy to incentivize the buyers of the energy efficient houses. And we do believe this is a very timely project. Obviously, it has very important green impacts and green opportunities, but at the same time, it provides economic incentives for more vulnerable groups, and it also is related to the social aspect of sustainability. For example, affordable housing that is always usually at the top of the agenda of many developing countries, such as Mongolia. And there are also some interesting other projects that we are working on and testing that are very specific to Mongolia's own country context. For example, so the Kashmir sector is a very important economic sector in Mongolia, and we are working on a pilot project to enhance green finance flows and develop green financial products specific to the Kashmir sector. We are also working on more smaller scale green financing solutions. So one example on this is a pilot project that we are working together with UNICEF to provide microgreen loans for green insulation and heating products for gears, which is the traditional kind of portable dwelling for nomadic families here in the country. And in addition to that, we also seen some support from the government. So the Ministry of Environment has started providing interest rate subsidies for green loans, which proved to be very effective in promoting better market awareness on green projects and more interest generally in the industry to take on a green and sustainable journey. So moving forward, there are a couple of areas where we'd like to focus our intervention. And the first one, as I mentioned, is really the expansion of the sustainable finance into the rest of the financial sector. A lot of work has been done in the banking sector, and there's a reason for that. The banking sector in Mongolia is quite large. It makes up 90% of the entire financial sector. But still, even if not in terms of like total size, we believe from the more inclusion perspective, from the social perspective, it's also important to engage microfinance institutions and the rest of the capital market. So that's an agenda that we are working together with the policymakers and some of our international partners. And another area that we would like to work more is also on green finance policy environment, some discussions like around providing differential capital requirements for green loans, we believe would really incentivize the market, and then also help our financial institutions in accessing more green funding, both from national sources and international sources, and very importantly, also help them prepare bankable green pipeline projects. And another very large area that we are starting to work on from this year is the development of local green project evaluation and verification capacity. I think for many countries that are more advanced in the green bond market, they already have such market capacity, but this one is at the moment non-existent in Mongolia. So we are hoping to do more work in this area and also support our banks in better green impact evaluation and reporting and monitoring. And on all of these activities, we plan to work very closely with UNEP FI. We just joined UNEP FI as a supporting institution, and I think we've already drafted a great action plan. And at the end of my, I think this presentation, I just want to note that the support that we're provided by international partners such as UNEP has been very instrumental and very valuable in bringing us to this stage, and we really hope to continue this collaboration going forward. And I'll stop here, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nomindari. So it's great to see that Mongolia's banking sector is so well organized to collaborate with each other and with other stakeholders around the world. We see that green finance is a source of competitiveness competitiveness for the Mongolian banks and the challenges how to actually reap that reward, how to develop more green financing. So with that, I think it would be very interesting to develop that discussion around the challenges that that many banks around the world are facing in terms of green financing. So I would ask to Mr. Wu of KB Financial Group, what are your top challenges in green financing, and what kind of actions are you taking to overcome that? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think two factors very important in green financing. One is consistency of government policy, and the second is feasibility of a Green New Deal project. First of all, it is important that government policy maintain its consistency. But I have seen many cases whenever a government changes, the long-term policy also have changed. To prevent occurrence of this problem, KB Korean Bank has set green financing as a key business sector of KB Korean Bank's long-term ESG strategy. I believe now we could proceed with green finance in a permanent business strategy regardless of government changes. A second major challenge is business feasibility of green financing. For successful transaction for green financing, it requires a close cooperation among different stakeholders, including private sector and the government. And that KB Korean Bank has a best track record and experience in of conducting feasibility study and organizing stakeholders coordination. Using our knowledge and experience, we could definitely contribute to the success of Green New Deal program. Additionally, we have learned importance of risk management from COVID-19, and we are trying to build up in advanced risk management system to avoid such a risk or problems. Now that we are living in a year of a new normal, the importance of risk management will become as important as the need for a green financial itself. As a leading bank in Korea, KB will try to contribute to the successful implementation of green finance in Korea. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. That's really interesting. So a stable long-term commitment from the government, good stakeholder engagement on your side, working together with your clients, and strengthening your risk management are some of the things that I picked up. Thank you very much. Maybe I will ask Ms. Huang about Bank of Zhejiang's experiences around the challenges that you face in China around the development of green financing. Over to you, Ms. Huang.
Yeah, I think one of the main challenges we face is information asymmetry. It's manifested in the overall low level of corporate environmental information disclosure, such as the disclosure of key pollutant emissions, the lack of continuous tracking information of green bonds during post-insurance periods, and the lack of a fully established green finance information platform. Information asymmetry, making it difficult to evaluate the both positive and negative environmental impacts that might be brought by the company or project we finance. So we have a lot of work to promote the information disclosure. Yeah.
That's a really strong point. And I think that's also information and data needs at a granular level is being demanded more and more. You need more specific information from your clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. Ms. Nomindari, I guess you have also covered a lot of the challenges already, but do you have anything to add in Mongolia that is very specific or important
I
to you?
think I also want to just echo the points that were raised by our colleagues in China and Korea. It's very similar. In Mongolia, we do have a national green taxonomy, which was a good start to help classify different green assets and help banks understand what type of different green opportunities they could have in their portfolio. But at the same time, there's a need to bring those taxonomies, those standards, really at the more detailed, at the project level. And in this regard, a major barrier that we're facing in the country is the unavailability of different green industry standards. For example, we don't have any green building code, we don't have an energy efficient housing standard, and that really proposes a lot of challenges for us to actively follow after green projects. And what we're doing in that regard is the development of more supporting guidelines and documents that will be accompanying the taxonomy. And this also needs to be linked with a lot of capacity building. I mean, a lot of workshops, one-off events, webinars that are happening, but we believe we need to look at it in a more systematic way, not just from like a one-off training perspective, but even including it in academia and education curriculums at even like high school student level and so on. And then another area, as we have mentioned, is that in Mongolia, obviously, sustainable finance has been very actively led by the private sector on a voluntary basis. But really, to bring it to the next level, we need the support of the government. And as our colleagues have mentioned, very consistent, stable government policy, a very clear signal to the market is very important. At the moment, we have very strong support from the central bank, but to realize it and to really make sure that the green incentives are actually happening and actually useful, there's also a lot of awareness raising and capacity development that needs to be done at the policymakers and the regulatory level. And another challenge that we're facing right now is that also the lack of a centralized coordination body and authority that can really do work on this under umbrella level on sustainable finance. For us, we have different financial regulators that are responsible for the different parts of the financial sector, but we really do believe at the national level we probably need a sustainable finance committee that brings together not only the financial sector but also the environmental sector and other industries together. And just a last point that I wanted to make is that, like globally and also in Mongolia, the collaboration and the movement of the financial sector has been really strong, and we are very proud that we have reached this stage. But going forward, we really need to have the support of the industries. So similar to what we have here at UNEP FI, at the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association, we also need like very strong coalitions of different industries that will also support our agenda, come in and really understanding the drivers and the need behind sustainability and the climate change agenda. So these are some of the barriers, but also we strongly believe that these have also solutions, and we are working towards those.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ms. Namidari. I think your message about the other sectors, the business sectors needing to respond, and also the government to provide support. In short, I think the whole national economy and the whole structure needs to be aligned and working together to collaborate on this. And I think this can be said both at the domestic level, but also at the international level as well. So while we are very happy that we are connected through the finance sector, I take your point that we need to strengthen the engagement with the business sector and the policy level as well. So I think we are now 1 minute before the hour, and we unfortunately have to close this meeting as the next session is starting. So thank you very much for the participants listening in and viewing our session, and also thank you to our 3 speakers for giving their time and their experience. It's been a very insightful session for me. I hope it has been for you as well. Thank you, Ms. Huang, Mr. Wu, and Ms. Namindari for participating here.
Thank you very much, Yuki.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye. Thank you.